welcome into Before The Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. I'm Kaylee Mansell with DawgNation Recruiting Insider, Jeff Sentell, and I do feel like over the last few weeks, you and I have covered a lot of ground on getting to watch various Georgia commits that are going to sign here in a few weeks. We've been really getting after it.
Kaylee, I feel like I went back and did some research. Looking at our dog of the week, I went and looked back, and we've had 14 dogs of the week. 13 dogs of the week, and 6 of those times it has been Talyn Taylor, and 5 of those times it has been Todd Robinson.
Really?
Yes. So it's very ironic on today's show that we're going to talk both about Todd Robinson and Talyn Taylor. I got to see Talyn Taylor, 5-star in Illinois. But Miss Mansell, with the details, I want you to bring the tea. Tell me a little bit about Todd Robinson and Valdosta at Carrollton.
I think I was just most surprised by the athleticism because we've talked about him so many times on the show. I've seen the film, but then seeing him in person is a completely different thing. And he wasn't even fully healthy. Like, he is going to be a DB at Georgia, but technically for Valdosta, he's a dual-threat quarterback. Was having some issues with his ankle, so he didn't run the ball as much as he probably would have if that weren't the case. But you could just tell that he's such a playmaker and has a very high football IQ. I think Carrollton knew that they had to prepare really well for him, and even though the score didn't come out in Valdosta's favor, there were so many moments of momentum for Valdosta, and that was all thanks to Todd Robinson. So, I mean, wow, I'm excited to see him play defense for the Dogs.
It's crazy. You see on some of those clips, Kaylee, you see right there, and I believe that's our man BA and Mr. Mansell on the call there, but you see, like, he's a little bit more electric with his legs, a little bit more dual threat. I saw on that rollout where he threw his 1 touchdown pass of the game where he just didn't look as springy and as quick to get to that corner and, you know, to put his foot in the ground and go. But, I mean, hey, everybody wonders. We're going to talk about Georgia's other quarterback in the class potentially coming up later in the show, but it's not Todd Robinson, although he sure showed in Georgia high school football that he could play some QB.
Yeah, so we'll have some Talyn Taylor talk, but first, why don't we show you what we've got going on today's episode of Before the Hedges, including a DawgNation conversation. And Jeff's going to tell us, was football different up north, high school football? I'm sure it was. I'm excited. And then for our signing day coverage, we're going to focus all on the DBs committed in the 2025 class. Then we'll do a review of the UMass visitors list. What do they think about Georgia? And then we'll do a who's coming to the last home regular season game in Sanford Stadium, what we assume is going to be the last game all year in Sanford Stadium.
That's a good point there, Kaylee. I would be with you on that. Hopefully that's the thing. As much as everybody loves getting in Sanford and Black Friday, which will be Black Friday, I'm guessing, this week, but certainly the Dogs do not want to return to Sanford because that will mean some upsetting things happened.
All right. Yeah. I mean, we could do a whole show over all the chaos that happened on Saturday. I'm still in disbelief over it a little bit, but that kind of gives you the idea that this will be the last game. So going to have to go all out. You
guys are so clever and so snarky on DawgNation at large that I'm waiting to see your volume this week where it's going to be like, which one of these losses you guys can make the most fun of about the fan bases that, I mean, of course, everybody heard the legend call on Feinbaum yesterday with Alabama, but, I mean, that's one of those things where, you know, you always see those scenarios, these things have to happen, and all of a sudden all 3 of them happened.
Right.
Which makes me think more things are going to happen down the line.
All I can think is that the college football script writers maybe got a little bit too drunk and got a little out of hand and steered off the path a little bit, but... If you haven't watched DawgNation at large, it aired at 6, so you can go back and watch it. But I want to hear all about your experience seeing Talyn Taylor. You went all the way up to Illinois to watch him play in his high school semifinal game, and we'll get to the conversation in a minute. But as someone who spent so much time watching Georgia high school football, how different was it there?
Well, first of all, Jeff is not as young as he used to be because Jeff was at Roswell at Blessed Trinity at about, I left after the 3rd quarter. I was watching Jonesboro and Blessed Trinity. I had to get on a flight. My flight left at 7 a.m. from Atlanta. I had to be in Geneva, Illinois, which is about an hour away from Chicago's O'Hare. And let me tell you, first of all, Kaylee, it just doesn't make sense. The kickoff was at 1 o'clock. It's a state semifinal. It's 6A Division II. And it's 12:15, and, like, nobody's out on the field. Like, they just don't show up on the field. They have about 30 minutes of pregame. They get all warmed up. And then, like, you see Talyn Taylor just going absolutely bonkers in this game. He has 11 catches, 199 yards, 1 touchdown. He made several key blocks to free up other teammates. But they have these little Kaylee, I kind of wanted to say, like, it looks like at the rec fields, that little, looks like a shed. Mm-hmm. And you put all the equipment in there or whatever they line the fields with, like a Georgia local county rec department field. Well, they call it their warm hut. And that's where they go before the game, and that's where they go at halftime. They go into their warm huts, while the opponent just hangs out in the other sideline in the 34-degree cold. And we're going to have a lot on Talyn Taylor, but another key note is Venus, his mother, who's so awesome and gracious, but like she told me, she prefaced this trip, and she sent me a picture, and the field was covered in snow on Thursday. So I was like, oh, great. It's going to be that snow globe game, with Jameis Winston that they played with the Browns. And I get up there and the snow's cleared. But Geneva is alive in the 6A state championship game this Saturday. And it's supposed to be 27 degrees at, I believe, Illinois State University. So
I can't even walk to my car when it's 27 degrees.
And just imagine, and for Geneva to win, they're going to have to throw that rock, sling that rock, and they're going to have to catch a lot of passes.
So it looks like Talyn's going to play a really important role.
Yeah. That ball, hands, ball, 27 degrees. Things did not work as well. I kind of kidded with him and his mom after the game. I was like, well, you see him making a great one-handed catch right there. I kind of kidded with him. I was like, well, this might be the last time you play a home game, and it's anything less than 60 or 55 degrees. Because in Georgia, you're going to get sweltering temperatures until maybe this time of year.
All right, so in watching him, what were some of your immediate thoughts on his skill set?
Kaylee, he just catches it so well. Like, it sounds like so dire for Georgia sometimes about just all the drop passes this year. We've seen the stats about leading the nation, but like, it's almost like he has like 10 slabs of Velcro on his fingers, or that thing, his hands are just magnets. It's really not even a question of will he catch it. Watch him getting a good block there, running that guy out of the play right there. But they had a great game plan because they were playing the defending state champions, and they got beat pretty bad last year by this team. And everybody knew Talyn Taylor was coming, so they played a cover 2 look. They were definitely trying to take him away. So what Geneva did is they ran a lot of screens in the first half, and Talyn would just make a guy miss, get 15, 20 yards on the screens. But then later in the game, they kept running those screens, but everybody was converging down on Talyn, and that opened up his teammates for seismic gains, and they were just taking chunks away from him. And, I'm going to tell you this, Kaylee. I see a lot of players, I see a lot of 5-stars, and these are the moments where the 5-stars have to shine. I know you love that phrase, big-time players, big-time games, big-time moments, and that was Talyn Taylor. Like, this is the best thing about this game right here is Talyn Taylor was 1 year old the last time Geneva was playing for a state championship.
Wow.
And they're playing for a state championship on Saturday. And I'm not going to overdo this point, but I'll simply say that Talyn Taylor will arrive at the University of Georgia, Kaylee, and he will be 17 years old in December.
Did you just say what I think you just said?
I did. He's 17.
I can think of another wide receiver who is 17 and also in the SEC. But look, all this to say, Jeff did not go all the way up to Illinois to not bring you back something very, very special. This is our first ever conversation with him?
Live one-on-one, yes.
First ever live DawgNation conversation with the 5-star wide receiver, Talyn Taylor.
And great players, I see a lot of 5-stars and they don't rise to the occasion in state title moments. How motivated were you to perform today?
I was really motivated to perform today. I knew that we haven't been in this state championship since 2008, and we lost to this team last year in the playoffs. We got smoked by them last year in the playoffs, and we all knew this feeling. We didn't want that feeling again, so everybody knew that they had to come out and execute. Everybody had to make plays, including me, not just me saying that I made all the plays. Like, everybody was making plays out there. That's why we won today. Like, everybody was doing their job. Everybody was blocking well. Special teams got that onside kick. Great job for that. And then everybody was just doing their job, so that's why we did good.
This is what you lift all those weights for and run all those sprints. Can you ever Can you put it into words how this feels?
Oh, it feels great, man. It feels like it's a relief, you know what I'm saying? We got one more, we can't stop yet. I mean, we're not done yet at all. Like, it's not gonna be easy. We got a state championship against a tough team. It's gonna be a really good game. So we just gotta be locked in for that and just know that we ain't stopping yet.
Now, if I understand correctly, you were banged up last year. Did you play in the Cary Grove game last year, or were you like 60%?
Oh yeah, I mean, I played in the Cary Grove game, but I wasn't fully % yet. I was 5 weeks out of surgery when I played in that game, so I mean, I wasn't really 100%. But this year, I was 100%, and you could see.
What surgery was that?
I had meniscus surgery on my left knee.
So this was kind of like redemption a little bit, right?
Yes, sir.
I talked to Tony. He said the game plan. I don't know if it's your game plan with Tony. He said he wanted to get you 15 touches. Is that Coach Boone's game plan, or is that Tony and Talyn individual game plan?
That's Tony and Talyn individual game plan. You know, we got to be dogs on the field, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we knew the defense was just heavy cover 2. I mean, we knew that we could have taken a lot of hole shots on them, so we did. I mean, we got a lot of dig routes. The windows was closing up pretty tight, but our coaches found a way to call the plays that got us open.
Do you ever sense the frustration from the guys that are trying to guard you? Do they ever say something like, you know, dadgummit, or I thought I had him? Like, what sort of things do you hear in the middle of the game?
I don't really know, to be honest, but yeah, I definitely see it on camera. Like, when I watch the film, and like whenever I make a big play or whatever, they have their body language just like, oh man, like they get down on themselves. But I don't really hear them say nothing because I just know that probably they just expecting that out of me. So, yeah.
Talyn, as I started tweeting these highlights out, the number one question I got from Georgia fans is like, does Georgia have anything to worry about? This guy, like, you know, people are trying to flip right now. They're coming with big checks. What's your message to all the fans out there, man, about your solidity with Georgia?
I'm locked in with Georgia, man. Georgia's the place I want to go. I love Kirby Smart. I love Coach Coley. I love Coach Bobo. I just need to get back down there on a visit, hopefully soon. I can't get down there next week because, you know, I got state championship, but just know when I get back down there, it's going to be great.
You're enrolling early, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know when you'll get to Georgia? Have you talked about that yet?
Yep, probably after the school year. We end like December 22nd, something like that. So like right after then, and then my classes start there like January 6th, so I'll probably be there before then.
Are you going to go to bowl practices, or are you going to go to one of the All-American games? Have you thought about what you're going to do?
I haven't thought about what I was going to do.
Yeah, you got to worry about Geneva football here.
Yep.
Can you put into perspective how big this was? They're the defending state champion. You guys haven't done this, I think, since you were, what, 2008? How old were you there? You were 2 years old?
1 years old. I was born in 2007. It's great. I mean, it's great for the community. It's great for everybody, you know, to just experience this and experience the joy and everything out of it.
Talyn, what's it like? You're adored by your community. Like, you're signing people's hands, you're signing shirts. Is this a normal thing for you, or is this the volcano tonight when everything erupted a little bit?
It's really normal for me. I mean, just knowing that I'm not trying to be like cocky or anything here, but like knowing that I'm like a big recruit in Illinois, you know, you don't really get many of those. You get a lot of kids and stuff like that want to play football and want to do what you do. So you got to set a good example for those young kids and just play well, do what you do, and you got to, after the game, show them some love, you know?
Talyn, I think the tone setter was your only touchdown, but I mean, you had to, what was the call there? Was that like what was the call? I mean, what was it designed and called in the huddle? And you had the toe tap at the end, I believe, right?
It was just a play I knew I had a fade off that. I was a slot. I was on the ball. I knew we had a Zen call, so in motion, and he was running like a drive out inside, like a dig or something like that. But I just had to take mine outside the corner. I was in the slot. They were in heavy cover too, so I just ran outside the corner looking for that whole shot, but he just put it out there, and I just ran and got it.
Do you have a side adjustment on that with Tony and your offense? Can you adjust your route mid-route, or like what were you? How did you know to do that?
Really, I mean, it's really just practice. I mean, we've been practicing since I've known Tony since 6th grade, and we've been practicing ever since. We've been outside on the field. We've been doing everything we can to just get to this moment where we are now, and hopefully we can execute it.
The two things I want to ask you about, maybe the play of the night was your one-handed. I want you to describe that play, but also how in the world are you guys throwing it to one? Like, what's the call in the huddle on the half-inch line?
I really just think it's our coaches believing in our players, you know what I'm saying? Our coaches really believe in our players. We will make plays. That's the thing about us. We will go make plays. So don't underestimate us. But that's the thing. I mean, our coaches just believe in us at the 1-yard line. They just threw the ball, and we just go make plays. That's what we do.
Everybody was swarming you. I think you really were trying to find your mom. And what was it like when you finally found her?
It was great. It was great seeing my mom, just knowing that she's been there to support me this whole time. I'm doing this for her, you know what I'm saying? It's one of the reasons I'm doing this for. I'm just glad to see her after that. You know? She told me, she was like, this is your chance. This is your time. You know, you got to go take it. And that's what we did. And then when I saw her, it was just great from there.
Talyn Taylor, 5-star wide receiver. I tweet this a lot. I write this a lot. He's expected. He is set to be the first 5-star wide receiver signee since George Pickens in 2019. Talyn, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in the air right now or what's going on, but so many things about that made me a tad bit emotional. Him signing autographs, signing that kid's hand, and then his mom at the end. Like, I don't know. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it. Like, how does Georgia even find someone in Illinois? I feel like that's just kind of random, not like in within the SEC footprint.
Yeah, Kaylee, it's kind of weird. It's kind of Hollywood, actually. Like you win the big game, right? The biggest one in 16 years in town, right? And the whole community is mobbing him. You saw that video. One young man said, Talyn, will you sign my hand? And he's like, no, I'm not going to sign your hand. He's like, you're just going to wash it off. And the kid's like, I'm not going to wash it for 3 days. And the mom was like, you know, that Home Alone face, you know, from the movie Home Alone. And like, you know, every mom's dream. But you just got to know this family. Like, Talyn's mother, Venus, is a softball coach. And Talyn went to his mom, and she's like, when they started thinking about recruiting. And she's like, well, where do you want to go? Talyn said, I want to go to Georgia. But Georgia wasn't recruiting him. All the Midwestern schools were recruiting him. This is like 2-3 years ago. Well, so Venus described it to me this weekend, and she said, well, all these other schools that are pretty good are coming to us. Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, some really great ones. Ohio State still would probably, you know, sacrifice a horseshoe to get Talyn Taylor right now. But she's like, okay, if this is the one you want, we're going to have to go to them. You're going to have to be seen. So, and the reason why he wanted to be recruited by Georgia, he wanted to have a shot to play at Georgia, there's really two. The first one is he saw them winning championships. So think about that, DawgNation. You wonder about, you know, how much the championships matter, how much do they bring in recruiting? Well, there was a young high school lad who's now a 5-star receiver that noticed those back-to-back championships, and he associated the University of Georgia with winning. And he was like, bet, I want to see if I can go play there for them, for a championship program. And then he also, Kaylee, he liked the fact that if he went to Ohio State, he would just be another in a pipeline of first-rounders. But if he goes to Georgia and he works the way he knows he can work, and he dials in his incredible talent, that he can leave a very, very strong legacy as a wide receiver at the University of Georgia and totally make his own mark, and that's what he wants to do in Athens.
You hear that, Ohio State fans? Georgia wins championships, and they might win another few with 5-star wide receiver Talyn Taylor. All right, so that's going to wrap up our DawgNation conversation with Talyn. But, oh my gosh, now it's a week away?
A week.
A week away, guys. Signing day is a week away.
This is DawgNation's Countdown to Signing Day, brought to you by Kroger.
And today's signing day coverage is all about the Georgia DBs. Those who are already committed. We've talked about defensive linemen, we've talked about the wide receivers, but it's time to talk about what arguably is probably Kirby Smart's favorite position group, and also I imagine the one that he's probably the most hard on. So why don't we remind you who we've got in the 2025 class in terms of DBs. And it all starts with Todd Robinson, who is the highest rated DB out of this entire class, which is still mind-blowing to me considering the fact that he's not playing DB at the moment. So obviously somebody has to see a lot in him for him to be this high.
It's kind of crazy. You know, Todd would probably be rated a lot higher if he just played DB the whole game. And I don't think he played any DB against Carrollton last week because they needed him so much on the offensive side. But you know, Todd will be basically, Georgia sees him as a nickel or as a safety type guy. And I'm going to just go ahead and make a prediction, Kaylee, that all those pass concepts he learned at Valdosta High, being a quarterback for the past 4 years, are going to benefit him playing a ranging, athletic, physical safety in Athens, because he's going to know what those windows look like and feel like, and he's going to know what that quarterback is thinking a lot of chances.
All right, so we've also got the 4-star DB, Jonte Gilbert, out of Atlanta, as well as the 4-star safety, Jalen Morgan, out of Rockville, Tennessee. Now, remember, the cornerback, Dominic Kelly, out of Bradenton, Florida, he was one that recently just reclassified, so he was just added to the class of 2025 last week, and then Rayshawn Dinkins was the flip from Georgia Tech.
Correct.
But I feel like the DBs is somebody that we maybe haven't covered enough this season. So out of the 4 that we just gave, who are the 2 that DawgNation should keep their eyes on?
Well, that's a good question, Kaylee, because this is not a typical Kirby Smart class. And what I mean by that is, let's rewind 1 year ago. And last year, I think Georgia had the #1 corner, the #1 safety. They had DeMello Jones. I think they had 4 top 100 DBs in the class a year ago. And corner, safety, corner, safety. And so this year, they just don't have those same amount of guys. Andre Evans was another corner. They didn't really specify the corner. If you look at that graphic right there, pulling it up, there's really only 2 guys that are even going to, I think, maybe try to be started out at corner. One of those is Jonte Gilbert, because Georgia had to make sure he could play corner, former Ohio State commit. And then Dominic Kelly, the reclassified 2026. And now his rankings would be a lot higher. He was like a top 150 overall prospect in the 2026 cycle, but he moved up, reclassified a year. This is the one rare Georgia DB class that doesn't have that 5-star, Kaylee, but they've got 2 guys. I think the 2 guys that we should probably focus on here is the ones that kind of the bookends of the class. #1 is Todd Robinson, of course. We've talked about him a lot. And then the second one was Rayshawn Dinkins, the Georgia Tech flip. Because you guys have heard me, but basically write haikus and love letters basically to Rayshawn Dinkins. I'm just such a big fan of his game and the way he plays the game. He plays both sides of the ball, very physical. His defensive coordinator, LeBrandon Hudson, allows him to apply coverage or apply pressure from the back end, and he can be a coordinator on the field for his defense. And those are the type of guys, you see those ball skills, you see that athleticism. Those are the type of players that thrive in Georgia. You mix in the physicality, you mix in his nose for the ball, and I think the comp of Javon Bullard certainly applies there.
I don't think that not having a 5-star DB in this class is something DawgNation should be too concerned about, just because for a few reasons. #1, this is the modern age of college football where every player that you see on there is going to be paid, but you can't pay a bunch of 5-stars. You're going to run out of money, and so I think you have to go based on need, and this class needed a really high-paid wide receiver. They're always going to bring in a top-rated linebacker, but as you mentioned, from last year's class, they signed a bunch of the top-rated 5-star guys, so maybe there isn't this big of a need to go out and get the guy, especially when you know how well Georgia develops guys on the defensive side of the ball. So it doesn't really scare me that there isn't one big 5-star guy, because you just got Ellis Robinson, you just got KJ Bolden, and you needed to spread that money out elsewhere, and plus you got to just trust in the coaching staff to be able to develop it. I mean, that's 5 4-stars on the board, which for Georgia may not be the norm, but any other school would be begging for that.
Kaylee, I'm of the belief that when you have 5-star linemen up front, it makes your 4-star DBs play like 5-star DBs. And folks, you just need to buckle in. When this crop of defensive linemen are sophomores, that's when Ellis and KJ and DeMello and Andre will be juniors in Athens. And good luck, SEC opponents. Good luck, playoff opponents, when you have to deal with all those guys. And, Georgia's going to you'll look next year, they'll have a wide berth of 5-star DBs that will come back. So when those defensive linemen are juniors, they'll have a bunch of sophomore, former 5-star DBs. And Georgia likes to do it in waves. And Kaylee, you were right. Georgia is spreading the money around the front 7. Guys like Elijah Griffin, guys like Zayden Walker, Isaiah Gibson.
Did you almost just say someone that you weren't supposed to say?
I'm not supposed to say that name yet, Kaylee. That's more to come.
I thought that's where you were going with this. All right, so in just a second, we will review the UMass visitors list. But first, we want to remind you that here, Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Listen, Thanksgiving. well, I guess you still have time to do it tomorrow. Maybe some last-minute things. Make sure to check out your local Kroger or visit Kroger.com. You can still use that Kroger.com/Thanksgiving to view recipes and inspiration to help with your feast, including that calculator I told you guys about that helps you plan what size turkey you will need for your guests, which comes with prep and cook time. Actually recommended it to a friend of mine who used that. He's never made a turkey before, so super proud of them for that, and it was cool that I got to recommend that. So,
Kaylee, now a member of your family is kind of internet famous for doing last-minute Christmas shopping. Is there a member of your family that is famous for doing last-minute Thanksgiving shopping? Because is there anybody that goes out and does it the day before? Because Kroger would be the spot for them if so. She says a lot by just scratching her head right there. So
I don't know what you're talking about, Jeff. I don't. I have no idea what you're talking about. All right, but I do want to talk about this. Let's do the UMass recruiting weekend. There were some visitors on the scene, but we're going to do it quick five style. All right, there we go. We're going to start with a 4-star wide receiver, Roe Eisen, who's currently a USC commit. But, I mean, does Georgia need to add another wide receiver to the class?
I think they'll add wide receivers to the class and from the transfer portal. I do not think they will add Roe Eisen. So if we had our world-famous dogometer rolling right now, this would be very much in the Chihuahua zone. I just don't think there's not going to be enough juice off this visit.
Do some kids take visits just to take visits because they can?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, who can blame them, right? All right, then let's go ahead and move on then. Let's do the 3-star defensive lineman, Jeremiah McLeod, the Florida commit. Now, I got to tell you something because I almost texted you and I was like, oh my God, it's breaking news. It was a tweet earlier where Jeremiah McLeod was the dog of the week.
Yeah.
But I forgot that their high school's stuff looks like the bulldog, you know? And I was like, oh my God, why is nobody talking about this? It was just their high school graphics.
Well, so what Georgia does with their targets is they call them they're all dogs. And when one of their guys has a really great weekend on the gridiron on the game, they call him a dog of the week. They kind of honor a big game. So they were honoring Jeremiah McLeod because while he's technically not a dog, he played like a dog and he's a dog of the week. Because all the cool kids are naming dogs of the week. That's what they do out here.
Yeah, but it had the bulldog logo. Anyway, it was false advertisement, but I don't know. We've talked about Jeremiah McLeod so much that at some point does it become really real, and does this visit play any part in that?
I think it's really real, Kaylee. The juice that wasn't there coming off the Roe Eisen visit, the USC commit, there's some real juice coming off the Jeremiah McLeod visit. We kind of knew that was coming. He was back in Athens for the first time since September 13th, and Kaylee, that's the visit that really turned the commitment story of, at that time at least, of Usman Kroma, made that kind of nailed down that commitment for Georgia. And I think those two young men still want to play together. And I think the Lee County defensive lineman, I think Florida's getting crazy on the trail right now, flipping everybody with, a Godzilla-sized spatula. But I had to try to.
I'm sorry, it took me a second to process that.
I had to try to find a reptile really fast, a big reptile real fast. But you look at that, and I think Georgia did a lot with this visit. So I think the dogometer for Jeremiah McLeod would definitely be trending upward here.
All right, now we've got the 3-star offensive lineman. I did not practice this. I'm probably going to say it the exact same as I did last week, but it's okay. Dennis Uzochukwu?
Oh, we almost would give her the Price is Right ring for getting it right.
Wait, the Drew Carey Price is Right?
Yeah.
That's the only acceptable one.
No.
Okay.
We're gonna agree to disagree here.
Big Drew Carey girl.
Big Bob Barker guy back in the day. I ate lunch at my grandma's house, my mama's house, had baked potato, sopped in butter, and the Price is Right Showcase Showdown. That was my childhood.
Okay, well, all right. So let's talk about how Dennis's visit went, because you said earlier, the line of scrimmage is what makes people better, and I don't think that Georgia would have a problem adding another offensive lineman to this class.
So I think they want one more, and Uzochukwu. So practice that up for next week, Kaylee. Right. And I will tell you to practice it up for next week because you will likely be using that name again in the near future.
I see.
It's funny, a lot of the industry is reporting that he's currently still committed to Georgia State. That's news to Dennis. Dennis and I had a conversation after his official visit. He told me he verbally decommitted from Georgia State like a month ago. He's going to take some time this week, think about it. He actually told me, Kaylee, his family might all gather around the Thanksgiving meal, and they're going to be like, so what am I going to do with this college decision? And they're going to chop it up around cranberry sauce, around the turkey, the stuffing, the sweet potato pie, squash casserole, whatever you got there. And he might even be back in Athens on Saturday, but the official visit went very well, and you guys will read on DawgNation.com earlier this week how well a certain moment of the UMass game really stuck in the mind of Dennis Uzuchukwu.
So the next visitor is one who didn't have to go very far because he's the hometown kid, and that's the 3-star quarterback, Hezekiah Millender. He's a Boise State commit, but is at Clark Central. Georgia really, 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 really wants another quarterback in this class, and I feel like this might be the one.
Kaylee, that was a lot of reallys. That was a new Before the Hedges record reallys right there for the Mansell reel. They do, and I mean that strenuous drive up Baxter Street is going to be very, very hard. But folks, let's dial into this one. Juran Sagopotele has canceled his visit for this week.
So I heard.
He's not coming in over Thanksgiving, so the focus now maybe zooms in on this Boise State commitment. He's at Clark Central. A little bit of backstory time here. He moved to the state of Georgia from Arizona for his senior season. The reason being, Kaylee, is he wanted to get some SEC exposure. He wanted to play some ball. Remember, mind you guys, he moved from Arizona to Athens, Georgia, of all places, when he was already committed to Boise State for the purposes of getting SEC attention. Well, probably the biggest dog of the SEC is giving him attention. I think this has given him Hezekiah, a lot to think about. So we will stay tuned.
Wait, I'm sorry. He moved from Arizona to Athens to get noticed by the SEC when he was already committed to Boise State? Man, he's already got that dog in him. What's she talking about?
That's right. He wanted that. He wanted that smoke. He had an offer, but he's like, I want to see if I can play in the SEC. I want to make sure they can see me. They're going to know who I am. And Kaylee, he had quite the season.
Yeah.
David Perno, the former baseball coach at Georgia, is now the head coach at Clark Central. He was telling me, and now listen, this was protecting his guy, or this was just boosting his guy. But he said, aside from that guy in Carrollton, Juju Lewis, he says, I think this kid is the best quarterback in the state. Now, I know Ben Reeves Jr. at Milton High School would raise his hand and said, I beg to differ, sir. Mm-hmm. And maybe those Houston County folks with Antoine Hill might say the same, but you got to look at what Hezekiah did. I think he accounted for 7 touchdowns in their final game of the year when they lost something like 69-48 to Houston County. So he's 6'3", he's about 200, can make every throw. Now, he's not a burner. He's more like 4'7" guy, kind of like a guy that can create, move around, be a little bit faster than, I've seen a lot of player parallels for Hezekiah being tossed around, but I think the running ability, I think he's got kind of Mahomes type speed, which is not a burner, but it's just enough to get you the first down or just enough to get you to your spot where you can make a play.
I was having this weird sense of deja vu for a second, and I couldn't exactly figure out what it was, and then I just remembered there was another quarterback who moved from Arizona to Georgia. So hopefully this one sticks and can write his own poetry. All right, last thing, we've got is Monty Croma, the 4-star running back, took an Auburn visit or is taking an Auburn visit?
Just took an Auburn visit.
Okay, that's fine. I feel like that's acceptable. That's common, unless you're kind of looking at me with these little crazy eyes and you're making me a little bit nervous, Jeff.
Yeah, you should be nervous. We're probably jinxed this recruitment, Kaylee, because you did not put that oil painting of Usman Kroma getting all choked up here. We did not put that oil painting of Usman Kroma behind your shoulder that we talked about. But there's a little bit of intrigue now here with Auburn and Usman Kroma. Usman will probably visit Florida State, Florida this weekend. And the Auburn folks, they're chirping. They feel like they're going to flip a dog. The Dawg folks, maybe the Lee County folks, are thinking, nah, he'll stay a Dawg, because that's kind of where he always wanted to be. Let's pay very close attention to the Jeremiah McLeod recruitment that we mentioned earlier, because those guys are boys. They play for Lee County. They want to play college ball together. So Georgia, should they flip the Gator in Jeremiah McLeod, might give them some extra anchoring and some extra leverage to hold on from the flip attempt from the Auburn Tigers with Usman Cromah, the spectacular all-around running back out of Lee County.
I feel like I'm going to have to like double up on my seatbelts because it's about to be a crazy ride for the next week until we get to signing day.
Yep.
All right, so that was our recap on our UMass recruiting weekend, but we've also got some visitors for the Friday, 7:30 Georgia Tech game, presumably the last game in Sanford Stadium, so kind of like your last-ditch effort, and you know the environment's going to deliver. It comes at kind of like a weird time because it is Thanksgiving week, but, I mean, this could be a stellar recruiting weekend for the Dogs.
So little hurdles here. It's Thanksgiving week. The other hurdle is a lot of really good football players are still involved in their state playoffs. Like Talyn Taylor would want to be there, but he's going to play on Saturday in the great state of Illinois, so he can't be there. I would expect there's one really big name to look at here, Kaylee, and it's a visit that Georgia has wanted all season but hasn't gotten it till now. I'm talking about Florida State commitment out of Greensboro, Georgia, Greene County. You think, come on, Jeff, Kaylee, it's only like 50 miles away from Athens. How have the Dogs not been able to get Kevin Wynn in town? But they haven't. Kevin Wynn will be in. He'll be visiting Georgia. He's already taken his official, so this will be an unofficial. And he chose Florida State. Back when he chose Florida State, South Carolina was maybe bigger in the picture. Now Georgia is in the picture. So is the USC Trojans in the picture.
Shocking.
So you want to talk about a 11th hour. Georgia's going to take a swing in the box, swing for the fences, and see if they can flip Kevin Wynn. I will say this, folks. Kevin Wynn is an absolute game wrecker of a defensive lineman. If Georgia could add him to this class, you want to talk about those fireworks right there? Good luck blocking that front if they can add Kevin Wynn to Isaiah Gibson and Elijah Griffin and everybody else that's going to be on that line. Good luck, SEC.
Even if he doesn't flip to Georgia, I mean, if he flips, I'm not sure Florida State has any commits left at this point. It's just honestly kind of sad at this point. All right, so now we've got two people that will be returning back. It's going to be the 3-star quarterback, Hezekiah Miller, who has to drive like the whole 5-minute way. I feel so bad for the guy. And then also the 5-star junior running back, Savion Hyder. Yeah, okay. Hyder is also coming back.
Yeah, so this is one of those you're going to get. I think Georgia's going to get some more 2026s, some 2027s. All the commitments will be back in town because they've been told, you know, it's going to be a great environment. It's going to be special. You know, there's only, I think I did my math here when I was putting together some research. I think there's only 11 guys that are committed to Georgia right now that are still playing. And that's out of 30. So that's all. Says something about the type of guys Georgia recruits, but also says something about a lot of people don't want to be doing Black Friday shopping with their mama or their grandma or their girlfriend. They want to be in Athens watching some clean old-fashioned hate.
I mean, who can blame them at this point? I love that it's a Friday game. I think it brings a certain juice to the game that it's already, this year it's already different than it has been in the past, but something about that primetime Friday night, I like it. All right, still got.
Do you feel like every Georgia home game at night should be a blackout game now? How do you feel about that topic?
No. Because then if you just continue to do it so much, it becomes less special. I do like the concept of doing a theme and like having everyone united for something, but I don't think you go blackout every single time just because at that point it just becomes not as big of a deal as it was.
So would a red out work sometimes?
Yeah,
or something
red
like that?
out, white out, blackout, switch it up. I do love the black for the night game because it is just a little bit more fitting, but don't overdo it. So.
Well said, Kaylee. I like that take.
Girl math. All right, speaking of girl math, let's do some Mansell's details. We're going to start with Landon Roldan, the 3-star wide receiver out of North Oconee, who had 5 catches for 96 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 35-6 win over Ware County. But they've got a really tough test this Friday night. They're going to face Cartersville in the Elite 8. But the good thing is it's going to be at North Oconee, which is huge.
It is, and North Oconee's undefeated right there. Look at that. That's Faulkner to Faulkner Buster's son, of course, to Landon Roldan there. He's clicking up a lot of 3-touchdown weeks, and you see his son there. Pretty good quarterback in his own right. Looks like a lot of times some of his best plays I see Faulkner pretty good 2026 quarterback in his own right. A lot of his best plays are off script, and when you got Landon Roldan running down the field, that's a good guy to have.
Yeah, that's someone that I'm really excited to see more of him, especially like G-Day time. That's the kind of guy that shines on a G-Day. All right, let's move on to the 4-star running back, Usmani Kroma. I'm just going to act like I didn't hear the news that you just told me, and we're just going to stroll right along with it. We've got 2 clips for Usman, and it's 13 carries for 122 yards and 3 catches for 91 yards in a win over East Paulding.
Yeah, they kind of brutalized East Paulding. I think they won by 49 points, and he gets his 2 scores in the throw game right there. You see that physical, powerful running right there? I mean, Usman Kroma, you can see why, you know, schools like Auburn, Florida State are still coming after the Georgia commitment. I think you're really going to like this highlight right here. Everybody watching.
Yeah, I've got my watching eyes on. Ooh.
When you can't keep up with the cameraman can't keep up with you, that's a good point.
I don't even know how that defender went to school. Actually, he didn't have to go to school on Monday, so that's probably a good thing because I wouldn't want to show my face anywhere after that.
And, you know, Lee County, powerful program that it is. Look at that.
Yeah.
They've got the end zone copy they put on his huddle tape, so then everybody can see him chugging down to the sidelines.
Yeah, if you ever get bored, just go watch his huddle because he's got tons of tape and it's all super exciting. Let's go ahead and move on to Jontavius Wyman. Again, this is somebody that we have 2 different clips for. He had 4 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown on the defensive side of the ball, 4 tackles, 1 for loss, as well as a 50-yard punt return. Didn't win in the playoffs, but they played a really good Blessed Trinity team, but he definitely had the standout performance.
Kaylee, let me tell you something, ma'am. I got a chance to kind of witness this up person because I needed to see Jontavius as well as he's played this year. I get there for the game, right? Mm-hmm. And this is probably 2 hours before game time. And he's one of like maybe 2 or 3 Jonesboro Cardinals that are out working on the field. He's running routes on air over and over. He's going through his steps. He's running his routes. He's visualizing what he's going to do on the field. And I was like, I asked the coaches at Jonesboro, I was like, hey, is this an everyday thing? And they're like, no doubt. He actually may have not taken as much time today as he used to out here. Mm-hmm. But the reason being, you're going to love this, Kaylee. They said we spent too much time watching. He was at the table in the Olive Garden for their pregame meal, and he was watching film. He got everybody at the table around him to watch some film in the middle of the pregame meal at Olive Garden. I just love that story.
That's good. That's good. And doing it at the Olive Garden makes it all the more better. I believe we do have one more clip. Yeah. Here we go. And this awesome. Thanks for the awesome coverage for attending this game. It says on the tweet here that he's easily one of the best players you've seen this season. Does have those Travis Hunter flashes to his game. That is a really big honor to give someone, Jeff.
I think, well, he just does it every week, and you see him do it at receiver, you see him do it at corner, you see him do it. He just has these plays where it's like, now listen, I talked to a member of the Jonesboro coaching staff who actually was coached by Coach Bobo at Colorado State. And he told me, he said, Coach Bobo has mentioned they are well aware of Jontavius's highlights with the ball on offense. And they're well aware of how special he is with the ball in his hands. So I would stay tuned to when he shows up in Athens in 2026, whether or not they create some packages. Kaylee, I mean, just look at it, catches it on a bounce, weaves through a pretty good football team right there for a 50-yard punt return.
So the next guy we don't have any tape on, but we still want to brag. He deserves the bragging rights. It's going to be the 4-star tight end, Ethan Barbour, out of Milton. 4 catches for 43 yards, but 2 touchdowns and a 41-3 win. Milton as a whole has just really become a powerhouse in the state, and so it's hard to get touches when you play for a team like that when essentially all of your receiving core is going to play at the next level. So 2 touchdowns is huge for Barbour. I
think C.J. Wiley, the dog, the fellow dog, he had 5 catches for, I believe, 80 yards or whatever. I had a fan. Where was this at? I want to say this was at the it was at the Tennessee game. They came up to me on the sidelines and they said, like, hey, Jeff, come here, I got a question. He's like, are you noticing this? He's like, can you mention this on Hedges? And I thought it was a good take, so I'll mention it. Shout out to you out there. He's like, Georgia already has the Milton High suite with Ethan Barbour, C.J. Wiley. They also have the Warner Robins suite with Rashawn Dinkins and Isaiah Gibson. He wanted to know, can Georgia get the Lee County sweep with Jeremiah McLeod and Usman Chroma? And I was like, again, stay tuned on that one, Kaylee. But not only is it that, but Kaylee, those are the 3 of the best football teams in the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
And Georgia's just like cherry picking the very best in the state. Different this year with this class. We'll have this when all of our signing day wall-to-wall coverage next week. I had to get excited like I was the host with the most over here like Kaylee, but Georgia has really kind of cleaned up in-state this year.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what Georgia does so well is being able to retain that in-state talent. All right, and we've got one more for you. This is going to be Talyn Taylor, who Jeff went and saw. I know you guys saw some of his highlights off the top of the show. I mean, we do our Dog of the Month. We're going to do our Dog of the Year. And he's got to be at the top of the leaderboard because week after week, what he delivers is just so impressive.
Yeah, he's only got one more week of putting up numbers and building his case. But, Kaylee, this is an everyday week for him. Again, this was against a team that was the defending state champion who absolutely knew it was coming. Look how they had the 2 safety look the whole time with the cover 2 look. And his coach, his coaching staff, the play callers there found ways to get Talyn Taylor the ball, and he absolutely delivered like over and over again in the state of Illinois' IHSAA Class 6A Division II semifinal.
I know this may come as a surprise to some of you, may not come as a surprise at all, but Talyn Taylor, you are our Dog of the Week.
I'm a big dog, no leash, you all bark, no teeth. That's a whole lot of wins on me. That's a whole lot of wins on me.
All right, Talyn Taylor, the 5-star wide receiver, Geneva, Illinois, which Jeff is now very familiar with. 11 receptions for 199 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 28-26 semifinal win is going to take his program to their first state championship since 2008.
Good job.
Yes. On the season as a whole, over 1,500 yards and 23 touchdowns.
Kaylee, he's also averaging right at 20 yards per catch, which is amazing when you're a marked man. Geneva, Illinois, very impressed with that. Very Americana. They have this great chocolate shop, was recommended to me. Milkshake was absolutely sinful there in Geneva, Illinois. And I got to ask you, Kaylee, you're a connoisseur of this information. I think Talyn Taylor is racking up as many Dog of the Week honors as Taylor Swift does Grammys. True or false?
We'll say true.
True?
Yeah, but next Grammys, I don't think so. It's question of the week time. Let's start question of the week. And of course, it's clean old-fashioned hate week, so you know it has to be a rivalry type question. I like this question. Let us know your answer in the comments. It's where does Georgia Tech rank on your list of biggest UGA rivals? For me, it's number 2. I know for a lot of people it's number 1, and that probably is the correct answer. But I think I say number 2 just because if Florida's my number 1, and if Georgia's not playing Florida, I will never root for Florida. But if Georgia and Georgia Tech aren't playing, and it's probably just because they're in a different conference, I do find myself rooting for Georgia Tech. Like, I want to see them have success outside of the game against Georgia. So, at least for me, it's always been Florida, and then I would say Georgia Tech's number 2 just because that's the in-state rivalry. It's such a big deal. But if Georgia's not playing Georgia Tech, like, I want to see them do well for, I don't know, the group average success.
Wow.
Yeah. You can cancel me. I don't care.
So everything she just said there, probably the opposite of that. It made me smile. I got a little sentimental about how you put Peach State pride, being a Georgia girl, it matters to you. But you know all these memes this week that are like, you know, it's the Tech guy that's enraged and smoke's coming out of his ears. And then there's, I think it's Dom Draper from Mad Men, and he's like, I don't even think about you at all.
Yeah, I did see that, yeah.
I think that might be my feeling there with Tech. Now listen, I remember the times, you know, the Changeli years, the Jasper Shanks fumble. Tech used to beat Georgia maybe 40% of the time, and that made it a rivalry, but it's not a rivalry right now. And I think about, this is probably not the mainstream list, but I think the list starts with Florida. I think it probably might be Alabama now, and then it goes probably Tennessee, Auburn, Tech. I don't even know if I think Tech's in the 5. I think Tech's in my 5. But smart folks can kind of poke holes in my logic there because Tennessee or Auburn, neither of those teams are beating Georgia either right now. And my definition of a rivalry is both sides have to win and lose and kind of trade some paint and trade punches in order for it to be a true rivalry. So you've got a good cross section there. Dear DawgNation viewer, YouTuber, Facebooker, whatever, would love to hear you guys weigh in on where you think Tech ranks in your rivalry pecking order.
All right, DawgNation, we want to know what you think in the comments. Let us know where Georgia Tech. I'm going to start that over. Okay. All right, DawgNation, let us know in the comments where Georgia Tech ranks on your list of all-time Georgia rivals. Now it's time for our class breakdown. We're going to start with the offensive side of the ball, which has had no changes. Hopefully, it won't have any more changes unless people are being added to the list and not taken away. But that's your offensive class breakdown: 2 5-stars, 11 4-stars, 1 3-star. We'll move to the defensive side of the ball, which has now been updated because Chase Linton, the commitment ceremony we were at last week, the 4-star edge, has now been added to the list. I mean, the defense has really been expanding over these last 3 weeks. 3 5-stars, 7 4-stars, and 2 3-stars for the defensive class of 2025. Recruiting snapshot, you love to see it. Georgia has the #1 class rank in the entire country. They were sitting at 4 for a while, and they were sitting at 3, and then boom, you make that jump. They do have the #1 class in 2025, and I still think that they maybe have a few more to get. I imagine and hope that that's where they'll end the season.
I think they got maybe 4 more to get. That depends on how many they lose. But retention, like retaining a lot of these guys that we've discussed so far in the show, very important for them to finish with the #1 class.
And that's why you should be worried that there aren't any 5-star DBs in the class. All right, let's move to our top targets. We're going to go ahead and start at #1. There hasn't been any changes to last week. The 5-star defensive lineman, Justice Terry, he is #1, and we're going to get to see him sign next week.
Yeah, it's long awaited. I think DawgNation's had this information for a while now, but he is going to make his decision on December the 6th. He just visited Auburn, by the way. Might visit Florida State as well this weekend. So everybody, you got not one more week, but 8 more days, 9 more days of all this, 10 more days.
There's 1, 2, and 3. We'll show you 4, 5, and 6 here on the screen. New name added to the list: Hezekiah Millender, the quarterback out of Athens, Georgia, and then the same guys we've had from previous weeks: Kevin Wynn, Tavion Wallace. We'll know more about Kevin Wynn later. Let's show you our just off the list, which has now been reduced to 1 page. The only change is that Christian Ingram comes from the top targets to only just off the list, which is usually never a great sign.
Yeah, I just don't know if Georgia's going to have room in the class for a guy like Ingram. May depend on other things. A high upside guy, got some Georgia basketball Letterman player in his family. But you see there's the 5-star DB. That's the flip special. Will Miami flip him? Will Georgia flip him? Will Florida flip him? Let's wait and see on DJ Pickett out of Florida.
All right, that is our just off the list. It's that time of the show. First, before we do any of it, want to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving. I know that Jeff and I are thankful for all of you that tune in every Wednesday at 7 o'clock to watch Before the Hedges. I'm really thankful for you, thankful to be a part of the show, thankful that Georgia has the #1 recruiting class for 2025, and I'm thankful for Rivalry Week. Jeff, what are you thankful for?
Kaylee, I'm thankful for our first great year tag teaming Before the Hedges. Mm-hmm. I tweet this every year, and I think this really matters to me. Like, we're all busy, guys. Like, Kaylee and I and the DawgNation team, with all this stuff going on, everybody's got so many reasons to be busy this time of year. But just find the time on Thursday. Make sure you look around your table, look at those faces, and think about how all the timelines you've been through with those faces. And you may go to 4 different Thanksgivings. You may go to 2. You may wish you could go to 4 still. But just pay attention to those faces, because those are the timelines that really matter, and maybe not your social media feeds.
I like that. That might be the best intelligence you've ever given on the show. Well, Dawg Nation, happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Happy Black Friday to those who celebrate. And hopefully we'll see you Friday night at Jittery Joe's at 5:30 for Dawg Nation Game Day Show, and then catch you at the Georgia Tech game. Have a great Thanksgiving. We're so thankful for all of you, and we'll see you right back here next Wednesday for signing day. This is Before the Hedges.
I want the best in life, I never settle. I'm a bulldog, so Georgia who won't pick it. I love the family atmosphere and the way they handle business. Education.